So this sounds like a little bit of an odd statement, but when you program with Go, one of my philosophies about Go is that Go really encourages you to think like a programmer. And that sounds like an odd statement because, when so many people use things like PHP or Ruby or Django with Python or Node or whatever, right? And they are doing programming, but they might not necessarily be thinking like a programmer. And so they might rely on a bunch of code that's abstracted away functionality, and they just use some method, and that's the way they get stuff done. And so Go really encourages you to approach the problem, this is my perspective, and see if there's a programmatic solution to it. Like, how would you use these programming tools to create the solution? And that's what we'll be doing in this course. We will eventually get to the point where we see, hey, here are these, functions that have been written for us, which we can use, or this package, which we can use, which really simplifies a lot of things for us, and that's great. But we're also going to look at problems from the programmer's perspective, like how would we solve this with just programming? So we're going to do that with templates, and when we get to servers, we're going to do that with servers, right? There's an entire package built for serving files, and that's what we'll ultimately use. But just for your own edification and so that you have a good knowledge base about how the web works, we're going to build our own TCP server using the net package. And HTTP is a protocol that uses a TCP server to do all the network transport stuff. And so we'll build up our own network server, and then that'll allow us to understand, multiplexers and routing and all of that. And then we'll have some insight into the functions that we end up using that abstract all that code in a Google level way for us, but we will have built up at a rudimentary level the exact same stuff. So thinking like a programmer, that's what Go encourages. And is there a programmatic solution to a problem instead of just relying upon some library or code that's already been written for you? To that end, when it comes to templating, if I was to ask you that question, is there some way that you could just work with text and create merge data with an HTML file and get an HTML file to come out? As a programmer, from a programmer's perspective, right? You need to create an HTML file with data merged into it. How will you go about doing that? So if we have, and here's the solution, maybe you want to pause the video and work on that for a second yourself, just think it through. But if we have, just text, we're working with strings, we can use concatenate, I can't say that word, we can concatenate together strings to create what we want to do. And so that's what these first three examples show. And so I just call it rudimentary templating, right? And so, or primitive templating. So here I have a string Todd McLeod, and then here I have a string an HTML document, and I'm just merging this value with that value, and then I'm printing it out. And so that will print out the HTML text. And if I change into that folder and clear and go run main.go, there's my HTML. And I could also do go run main.go, and I could dump that to a file using command line stuff, right? Command line commands, and that's going to take the output, pipeline the output of this, and put it into that file. And so if I do that, then I have an HTML file, and I could choose reveal in Finder, except I'm on Windows and not my Mac because this Windows machine is set up for recording. Show and explore is what I'm looking for. And then I could open that in a browser, and there's my web page. So just using basic programming, I was able to merge data with an HTML page and get that output. So I'm going to delete that so you could do that. And we could also, approach that where instead of using dumping to standard out, we could do the same thing, merge data with a string, and then we could create a file using create from the standard library's OS package, get our new file, check the error, right? Defer, close the file, and then use IO copy and bring that string, make it a reader so we could pass it into IO copy because IO copy takes a reader and a writer, right? Strings, new reader, pass that string in and write to the new file, and it'll produce the file. And then one last way we could do it is we could accept arguments at the command line. And so from package OS, we have args, and I'm saying give me arg1, and that's going to be name. The first one is the program you've executed. The second one will be additional input. And then, concatenate that data together with a string, which is an HTML file, create a file, and then write that file. And so when we run this last one here, O3, clear, go run main.go, Todd. I'm going to actually use my last name. I like my last name. And so there it is, and it dumped that out. And I could reveal that and show and explore. And there we go. McLeod and view page source, right? And there's my HTML. So that's kind of a cool thing. And I like that approach of just like, think about it like a programmer. How do we solve this problem? We need to merge data with text. And so these are some basic approaches at the primitive, low level, rudimentary level to doing some templating, merging data with text, because HTML files are just text. All right. So in the next one, we're going to take a look at, the next video, we'll take a look at using template parse files. So from the text template package, we have parse files, and so we could start to do additional functionality, which makes things easier.